Charlie was first documented when someone snapped a photo of his initial escape from a meat processing plant. Now, you're probably wondering, what even is a Big Charlie? This creature's DNA analysis revealed that it is a man-made genetic hybrid of both chicken and cow, the ultimate meat product abomination. No longer will my McGangbang have to come from two different animals. Its body resembles that of an emaciated cow with its ribcage tightly encased by leathery skin. This creature can reach up to 30 feet or 9 meters tall. Its legs are structured like those of a chicken, and its head has a cow skull shape with a beak-like protrusion for a mouth. Big Chunkus's eyes are cloudy and milky white, like those of your friend's really old dog that he insists can still actually stand up, but you're not so sure. These hybrids are still in production around the United States, and their meat as well as other products like milk and eggs are being sold to consumers in America and overseas as well. You can't tell me you didn't already have a suspicion that something was up about your food. Take a bite of a McDonald's hamburger and tell me it tastes anything like a hamburger you make at home. Yeah, I still bought this, f*** you. Oat milk? Yeah, okay. Show me the nipple on an oat. You f***ers have been consuming Big Charlies this whole time. I'm telling you though, the meat is delicious when you actually prepare it right instead of just mixing it with dog food ingredients like your fast food places. Despite its totally radical entire body mohawk, this entity has never displayed aggressive tendencies towards humans. While he might seem frightening due to his appearance, think about how smart a cow is, and then think about how smart a chicken is. This guy is somewhere in between there. This thing's primary concern is eating things off the ground. I bet you feel about as dumb as him for being scared now, don't you? It's not really all that threatening of a creature compared to the rest of the crap that I drag y'all to. Although, cows do consistently kill humans on a scale that outweighs pretty much any other animal. This creature has one more unexplainable ability, that of fleshy asexual reproduction. This creature drops flesh blobs that will develop into one of multiple forms. If you were Big Charlie, your left boob would fall off and grow legs and become its own sentient creature while you rapidly grew the left boob back. The first of these three forms is a perfect clone of Big Charlie, the second of which is called Lil Nugget. I'm not talking about that vertically challenged Atlanta rapper that fell into a deep fryer. I'm talking about a small amorphously shaped creature with 4 nubbins it uses to walk around on and 2 comically large oval eyes. Lil Nuggets act like cockroaches or rats and survive inside human settlements by stealing their food and resources and nesting in their walls. I'd nest in your walls. Aside from the destruction to environments that regular pests create, these are basically harmless, and they can even be domesticated if you feed and take care of them. The lamb is a different story. The lamb is a monstrosity that looks to be made from veins and other vascular structures. Okay, so you know those bodybuilders that have skin so tight that all of their skin looks like veiny dick skin? It's like that big pile of veins, but without the skin. It levitates in the air using some form of telekinesis, but this is just the tip of the iceberg of what it is capable of. It can cause psychic damage to the brains of any creature in its vicinity. This includes psychological/emotional damage, but it can also just literally burst your gray matter. Make your head go. It's also capable of causing all the blood in a creature to instantly clot, causing the veins in its body to explode under the pressure of gelatinous blood, causing the skin to become reddish in hue. This creature, like any other cool, unknowable horror, is worshipped by a cult of followers. There's also triple question mark Nugget, but when people pressed lead paranormal researcher Trevor Henderson for information regarding this new discovery, he kept saying, "We don't talk about him." I know what that means. It's either that he's buried in Trevor Henderson's backyard, or he traumatized Trevor to a point he can never recover, and his brain made up a bunch of random monsters as a defense mechanism. Train Eater. The Train Eater was first reported upon by anomalous investigator Leovincible in the New York subway. Leo somehow managed to snap a picture of this creature in its non-camouflage state, an incredibly rare sight. In its resting state, the Train Eater resembles a long flesh-colored worm with the length of its body dotted with eyes. Like many creatures, if you poke it in the eye, it screams. In the front, this creature has a large mouth lined with razor-sharp teeth. Its mouth is usually agape, with a muscular structure in the front that looks like a trapped humanoid being. Scientists are unsure of what purpose this serves, but one theory is that it is a vestigial organ that ancestors of the Train Eater used to lure humans into its massive maw, which is why many of these lures have humongous tits. When in the presence of human beings, this entity is usually unrecognizable. It modifies parts of its body, bioshifting to perfectly mimic man-made vehicles such as trains, trains, buses, hot tub stripper limos, etc. This appears to be an incredibly advanced anomalous form of camouflage, like a stick bug in a tree, or a leaf bug in a tree, or you at a clown convention. Indistinguishable. The train often shows up at vorophile conventions or busy subways during rush hour in order to have the largest potential meal. This entity gathers as many victims inside of itself as possible and then shifts its physiology to trap its victims inside, removing the doors they enter from. It will then speed off to an abandoned section of the tracks before filling its gut with corrosive digestive juices, digesting the entirety of the contents of its stomach. After this, it promptly enters a hibernation state before waking up a few weeks later with a renewed appetite. It operates like a regular train until full to the brim with passengers, so some people actually ride the train eater home from work being none the wiser that they were almost worm food. The train eater acts in a similar capacity to natural ambush predators. This is becoming a trope. We've covered a whole lot of anomalous ambush predators recently. Come on guys, get a new shtick. Paranormal researcher Clark Tidor has theorized that the train eater is actually an incredibly large insect capable of modifying itself in its physiology, but upon further investigation, this creature shares more in common with worms, and also somehow a lot with legless lizards. While some theorize that this is some sort of genetic amalgamation with DNA from the two, some always theorize that, so who the hell knows really? Some speculate that the train eater could be used as a fleshlight for a giant and that someone is me. The train eater is also capable of sprouting legs across its entire body, coming to resemble a monstrous fleshy centipede. It uses these legs to burrow under the ground, creating a nest to lay clutches of eggs. It also uses these legs to traverse between subways in the streets to avoid suspicion from human authorities. The FBI even occasionally catches really disturbed train eaters that masquerade as school buses. Fortunately, these train eaters are always the first to get murdered in train eater jail by the other criminal train eaters. Maybe karma is real. Human researchers are astounded at the level of intelligence that train eaters display. I don't know why your species is always so shocked when another animal is smart. Oh sure, fill your oceans to the brim with plastic bottles and be surprised when the collected microplastic amounts to you eating one credit card a week, but they're the idiots. While train eaters typically remain in one area and nest, there have been cases of nomadic train eaters. One of these entities masqueraded as a Greyhound bus, traveling around the entire country multiple times. This particular train eater was much larger than the average for its species, and contrary to their typical behavior, on occasion displayed aggression and active hunting rather than its typical sneaky behavior. Before its termination that many anomalous enforcement agencies claimed credit for, it left a trail of chaos in its wake. It imitated a travel van for a band before massacring and consuming the entire concert, transformed into a yacht before eating an entire cartel. It even had a travel vlog. Cartoon Cat is a tall, slender, anthropomorphic black cat-like creature with cartoonish proportions and features. It has white, soulless eyes with black pupils, and white gloves similar to that of Control the Entire World Mouse. Like fans of FNAF, furries that want to fuck slashers are the most common victims of Cartoon Cat. Some believe that Cartoon Cat was sent as punishment for humanity's anthropomorphic, sexualized cartoon representations of animals. Oh yeah, and his teeth are consistently stained with blood. When pressed as to why, he said don't worry about it. So I'm not gonna worry about it. The creature does not usually display typical feet, instead having sharp points at the ends of their legs. Finally, a solution for those who have both feet and knife fetishes. Cartoon Cat can change his form, size, and body at will. Its arms and legs can extend almost indefinitely, allowing it to reach high windows where you sleep with ease. The creature's limbs can squash and stretch like that of a typical 1930s rubber hose era cartoon, except without all the racist parts that make everybody uncomfortable. His entire body seems to be malleable, as if it were made of some sort of solidified goo. The creature seems to be emulating Felix the Cat, a cartoon that ended around the 1930s. In the Felix the Cat Wikipedia article, it details the struggles and decline of the show's creator, which is incredibly sad, right? At the time of Googling Felix the Cat, I had not read this article, and I scrolled down to why did Felix the Cat end, and it said, he slumped into an alcoholic depression, his health rapidly declined, and his memory began to fade. He could not even cash checks to Mesmer because his signature was reduced to a mere scribble. He died in 1933. But my dumbass thought it was referring to Felix the Cat, and I was like, they wrote that in the show? On a drunk AMA Trevor did on his Twitter, he revealed that Cartoon Cat loves to commit violent atrocities. Oh, to be drunk on an AMA. Trevor's doing it right. He has not revealed much about Cartoon Cat, likely because he knows the truest fear is fear of the unknown. Cartoon Cat is considered to be so dangerous that other monsters avoid areas that he tends to frequent. Not me though. This cat Cat is just a big pussy, just like every other. It's theorized that Cartoon Cat has unknown metaphysical abilities that allow him such power. Cartoon Cat, and any other cartoon monster for that matter, can take the distorted form of almost any animal. But since dogs, mice, and cats are the animals that usually come to mind when cartoons are mentioned, these are the forms that are most often used. Cartoon Cat used to take the form of Cartoon Mouse, before the only entity more powerful than itself threatened litigation. This brings us to the entity of Cartoon Dog. While some believe that Cartoon Dog is a separate entity completely different from Cartoon Cat, others are convinced that they are the same creature, and that it just changes forms very often. Since their traits are all basically the same as far as I see it, the answer is very obviously that it doesn't fucking matter. If the majority of the population focuses on a new cartoon character, Cartoon Cat may take their form. And if it makes Cartoon AzFk, I'll see it the fucking court. Based on this info, it's likely that Cartoon Cat took its form around the 30s, and looked quite different before the advent and popularization of animation. Trevor has gone so far as to say that these creatures understand morality and quite enjoy doing the most horrific of things they possibly can. So basically, it's like that kid that's edgy for edginess sake. Oh, you don't like that?
I am the aberration, the absence of all light, the warping and bending of your reality to make you question everything you ever thought was real.
You wanna go, Bendy the Ink Machine's house cat? I'll have you fucking neutered. Oh wait, I don't even have to, because the quote-unquote family-friendly channels have already done that for me.
Okay, ouch man. That one actually cut too deep and did unsavory things just to survive. I'm done participating in your terrible video.
Should we do something about that?
Why do you care? Neither of us work here. I'm stealing from the register, and you apparently have just been filling all the condoms up with SpaghettiOs.
Oh yeah. These images are the only known pieces of evidence of a novel anomalous creature. This entity has been dubbed the Last Customer by its discoverer Leovincible, who against all Foundation protests decided that this sensitive paranormal information belonged on his very notable Twitter account. Someone's gotta take the SCP Foundation behind the bar and face it towards the sun and shoot it in the back of the head. There's no quality of life anymore. The Last Customer has been documented in a few different locations, but without fail, this creature appears consistently in retail stores. While the exact pattern of its appearances is yet unknown, this creature usually appears in stores that feel especially liminal, like large nationwide retail brands or particularly highway gas stops. You know the ones where they always look exactly the same regardless of where you are, and you're always there high as balls at 3 a.m. and you don't even know how the fuck you got there, but you really hope you didn't drive yourself. This critter has appeared in several different scenarios in these stores, but it's most likely to appear at the end of the last shift, when the final customer is browsing the aisles, or the last employee is closing the doors for the night. All those who have had an experience with the Last Customer disappear soon afterwards. While there's no direct evidence connecting the cryptid to these disappearances, come on, idiot. I mean, that sounds kinda sus, but in my opinion, he's pretty cool. He didn't say shit when he saw me pocket that gum. It's not stealing if it's a big corporation or an old lady on the street, that's what I always say. To understand a bit more about this creature, we can examine its physical characteristics. The first very notable feature is its humanoid face. You got pretty close to looking like a person, but honestly, I think you crossed over into Uncanny Valley Clown a few steps back. Other than that, this pineapple-looking ass has a large amorphous blob of a body, with a variable amount of arms that all connect to it, somewhere conveniently located off-screen. No telling what the hell this thing's body actually looks like. It's almost as if it is intentionally designed that way. But we're gonna ignore that. In some more detailed depictions of this monstrosity, we can see that the flesh around its face and extremities are raw and red, as if they've been somehow damaged. Perhaps in an altercation. The creature is often tangled in between the shelves. Spaghetti noodle-ass arms in and out of every hole. It looks like it doesn't have any bones in its entire body, which could lead to our next theory about what this is. While the prevailing theory that I just made up is that this guy is just like any other big dumb animal and he just loves Doritos, others have a different theory. Some believe that this creature is connected to the stores that it lives in, living in between the pipes, vents, and shelves. I think that each of these creatures is a separate entity, that at some point found a store to graft onto. This creature is a species that remains connected to this retail store its entire life, like a snail protected by its shell. See, the thing is, the store is a snail shell, but it's also a spider web. The chip dust and snack cakes lure obese clients to the Last Customer like flies to, well, Flies like snack food too, so. In summation, I view you all as pests. This entity likely remains dormant in the vents and pipes of a store before finding a sole victim in a dark part of the store late at night, at which point it uncoils its horrible flesh pile from inside the vents to entirely consume its confused victims. Or something goofy like that. To be entirely honest with you, I don't care what he is. He didn't say shit when I bought a bunch of zip ties, a pocket knife, a rag, some chemicals, and also a Snickers bar, which I appreciate because I'm self-conscious about my weight, but I still like to treat myself.
Hey, dumbass, there's nothing left. Let's go.
Yeah, one sec. I just gotta get done covering our tracks. I mean, entertaining the wonderful fans back home. By the way, none of this was canon, I made it all up. The country road creature is a vaguely humanoid-shaped quadruped creature that walks high off the road using its long, disproportionate arms. The entire body is emaciated, skin gripping tightly to the bone. There is not a single strand of hair stemming from its pale, slender body. It has an extremity structure similar to a chimpanzee or ape, meaning that its toes are opposable and almost as dexterous as their fingers. In addition, all of these creatures' joints are a ball and socket joint, meaning that it can move any part of itself in any direction. It's able to move at staggering speeds in a series of unnatural manners. It can also seemingly climb any surface and contort itself through spaces much smaller than its own body. This creature's head looks like a bald old man with gleaming white pupilless eyes and razor-sharp teeth. Now we can't even feel safe when we see a smiling naked old man in the middle of the forest at night. Is nothing sacred anymore? The country road creature frequents country roads. Idiot. It's an intriguing paranormal version of an ambush predator, disguising itself as a human by contorting its body to fit into items of clothing from its previous victims while obscuring its distended limbs. While some say it can shapeshift, it actually can just contort into a variety of forms. It is fully capable of overpowering a human on its own if the person is out in the middle of a backcountry road on foot, but in a car they move far too fast to catch up to and capture. From here, it has one of several strategies. It sometimes attempts to hitchhike, showing that it's either intelligent or can at least mimic behaviors that it has seen humans undertake. Other times, it will make its way to remote rest stops and wait in the shadows for someone to get gas, slipping underneath the car and holding on until the human pulls away, at which point it smashes open the window, attacking the human and causing a car wreck. It quickly consumes the victim and disappears back into the wilderness. Some have even speculated that this creature disguises itself as truck stop hookers in order to get the fattest of truckers to make sure it gets all its nutrients, and that someone who speculated it was me. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, I wouldn't get tricked by this. It would take some sort of dumb idiot to get fooled by this goober. That confidence is usually what kills your species in the first place. Just saying. I'm willing to bet there are more people alive that think the Earth is flat now than back then in the 3rd century BC. You're not getting smarter, there are just more of you.
Foolish, delicious human. Wait, what the fuck are you? Did you just pull a me on myself?
You are, without a doubt, the ugliest truck stop prostitute I have ever seen in my entire life. I'm gonna take a sip of water, my mouth feels all craggly. The neighbor is a pseudo-humanoid entity first reported upon by anomalous investigator Leovincible. Leo posted an image of this creature on the internet displaying its strange form in detail. It has 3 arms, 2 where a human would normally have them, and 1 on top of its head. These 3 arms all rotate around the central point of its vacant slack-jaw mouth. This mouth is lined with large human-like teeth all dripping with snotty saliva. You know this man is both a mouth breather and doesn't brush. These teeth aren't sharp, but are rather used for mastication, similar to how a human eats. In the center of this mouth is a face, rendered immobile and held in place by the incredibly strong muscles in the creature's throat. The face inside the neighbor is not actually a part of its original biology. That face is of its last human victim. The victim only exists from the voice box up now, as the rest has been entirely digested. The neighbor has an anomalous evolutionary adaptation where it can manipulate the nervous system of the decapitated head through rudimentary electrical stimulation. The heads are technically still alive and conscious, but not in control of any of its actions. It's like I have no mouth and I must scream, but also really gross and nothing like that. All they can do is wait helplessly for the creature to find another victim and swallow their head to digest and then replace them. Through its manipulation methods, it can move the face and even speak through the mouth of the victim. It can do other things with that mouth too, but I can't show you that on YouTube. The voice sounds similar to that of the original humans, but because the methods of manipulation are simplistic, there are a lot of discrepancies. The neighbor will often use this ability to get humans out of their house. It knocks on the door of its intended prey and places the face of its former victim up to the peephole, obscuring the rest of its monstrous figure. You might think this wouldn't work. What?
Hello! What
do you want?
Hello, I am your real human neighbor and not a man-eating creature keeping your neighbor's head alive as a flesh puppet in my gullet. May I come in for a cup of sandwich? Ow, my nose!
Humans, even the smart ones, will believe almost anything you tell them. If you are dumb enough to open that door, you'll be in more trouble than I was when I replied to my teacher's end-of-class Kahoot by saying I wanted to kashoot myself. Upon the human opening the door, the creature will seize one of the victim's arms in each of its torso arms' hands, and the head of the victim in its top hand. It will then swallow its current decapitated meat puppet and force the new victim legs first down into its gullet, securing its face in the back of its throat, and digesting the rest of its body. It then hooks itself into the nervous system of its new head. As is the life cycle of the neighbor, the only trail it leaves is an entirely intact, shitted out human skeleton. Nature is just so beautiful. I mean, not right now. This is an affront to life itself, but I don't know, go look at a spider web. The older one of these entities becomes, the more skilled it becomes at manipulating the human head's speech patterns and facial expressions. Over a short period, it can jump in language skills, starting along the lines of a child with fetal alcohol syndrome, and ending with something indistinguishable from the original human speech patterns. If not killed by a few years of age, it will progress at this neural manipulation from the proficiency level of a man attempting to put on a sock puppet play using only his penis, to a skilled marionette performer, pulling the strings of its victim to perfectly imitate its voice. One of these creatures got so advanced that it actually rose through the ranks of corporate America and is now an executive at Papa John's. I don't know how many bones you have, but if you don't stop, that number's gonna double.
Dude, we just met. You know I only eat humans. This is about the no smoking code in the building.
If you call the cops, I'll tell them you eat people. The shelf life of a decapitated human head is very limited. I learned that from Paula Dean. As the head rots inside of the entity's gullet, the brain will get less and less functional, and the neighbor's speech patterns will decay along with it. Eventually, the creature will get desperate and become more and more bold in its attempts to capture a human, which sometimes leads to its death by the fatal condition of getting f***ing shot. An anomalous entity has been reported making rounds around local antique shops and auction houses, leaving a path of tragedy and viscera in its wake. This entity was originally reported on by Trevor Henderson, who instead of relinquishing his anomalous evidence to any foundation, decided it belonged on his Instagram page. A man after my own heart. This entity's head resembles a skull split down the middle to reveal another skull inside, like one of those little Russian nesting dolls that everyone used to put in their ass. Both skulls have a wicked, almost mischievous smile. Since it has no legs, it stands on a pair of abnormally long arms. This entity, hereby dubbed Bonesworth, was originally found in the demolition site of an abandoned playhouse. It was hidden in a room in the foundation containing old costumes and puppets, so Bonesworth was originally thought to be a puppet. At first, people thought it was just really good craftsmanship, and it just looked a lot like a skeleton. It turns out that the case was, not that. 100% genuine human bone. From multiple different people, too. Confirmed by some antiquer who just thought he bought a weird old puppet. No, sir. You just spent antique puppet kind of money, which, for some reason, I bet is a lot of money, for something that is at best to be confiscated for evidence. What's more is, remember that old playhouse where they found Boney over here? Yeah, apparently there were just frequent freak accidents that would hurt or kill people, like, just regularly. We're talking about this weird theater having crab boat fisherman injury percentage. They got sued a lot, and as people who get sued a lot do, decided to go bankrupt and closed. Fun fact, further examination of the bones revealed that they were from those who had died in the theater accidents. Well, that wasn't very fun, but it was a fact. Use every part of the human, that's what I always say. As the puppet bounced around from owner to owner, the bad luck the figure brought did as well. Whoever owns Bonesworth inherits the same bad misfortune that cursed the playhouse. If you have an enemy, you can dig a hole under their house and leave Bonesworth inside to ruin their life. One owner decided to destroy the bone puppet, and then he and his entire family got murdered with no trace of a suspect, and were all missing different bones that could theoretically come together to create one complete skeleton. Oh, I get it. I'd like to stop you right there. Did you believe everything that was just said about Bonesworth? If you did, for shame. Bonesworth is actually a good entity that has had his name slandered by an admittedly very well-made video on Clark Tidor's channel. From other sources, Bonesworth is described as quote-unquote a good boy, and he only does harmless pranks, such as moving ladders while you're climbing, trapping you in a garage for several days, or messing with your brake cables. Don't worry though, it says that Bonesworth only does this playfully. Apparently, Bonesworth can be summoned through what is called his titular mobile game, Raid Shadow Legends! Nah, I'm never responding to those emails. According to Trevor, this little man apparently brings insomnia and nausea. So basically, he's just all of my drinking buddies. Or at least that's what the fandom or wiki or whatever says. Actually, I'm not really sure which one is the misinformation. I think they all might be the misinformation. Take your pick. Who cares? Whenever there's conflicting information, instead of taking both sides and thinking the answer is somewhere in the middle, you should assume that the information you like best is correct, and then blindly and rudely call anyone who disagrees with you wrong, and also an idiot and should die.
Wow, that is some journalistic integrity you got there, Eyeball. Just whose side are you on?
Look, Boner, sorry, Bonesworth. The only thing I hear when you talk is that you want to eat your front teeth. Can I help you with that?
Did you get to learn all your colors?
The Primary Color Man. The Primary Color Man is a humanoid entity with a complexion of various patches split between the three primary colors. Preternatural investigator Leovincible has documented this creature numerous times in both picture and video format. The origin of this entity is still a mystery, although many horror YouTubers list finding him in the backrooms at 3 a.m. This creature only attacks the colorblind and idiots who don't know the three names of the primary colors. At least that's the only pattern I can gauge thus far from this inhuman monstrosity with a kindergarten level of education. Before anyone goes and calls this creature ableist, it knows. It's an inhuman monster that enjoys murdering people. I agree with you, I'm just saying it's a weird hill to die on. The Primary Color Man is able to manipulate various facets of sensory perception. For example, it's able to distort a human's visual processing center in the brain. It can make it impossible for them to focus their eyes, remove their perception of color, or increase their saturation and contrast until they're living in a deep-fried version of their own reality. It can also give its victims incredibly intense synesthesia. This synesthesia is reported as tasting, smelling, and hearing the colors in such an overwhelming sense that it leads to total sensory overload and sometimes insanity. Some even report feeling the colors as temperature or pain. One of the Primary Color Man's victims began writhing in pain and begging for death when shown the color red, profusely vomiting when shown the color green, and was banned from school zones and had to go door to door whenever he moved following his actions after being shown the color pink.
Did you learn your colors?
Dude, step back. Your breath smells like you hit a bong filled with pee. The Primary Color Man is also capable of shifting his skin's pigmentation in order to camouflage against any surface like a chameleon. It uses this ability to stay hidden and stalk its victims, sometimes for years. It enjoys altering the human senses at a rate so gradual that they don't even know they're being changed. Slowly but surely, the human adjusts to what they think was always their reality. The Primary Color Man camouflaged right behind them, snickering to himself silently as it relishes their anguish. Eventually, this will leave them completely dissociated with reality and will begin to act erratically and develop ludicrous beliefs. This entity is also capable of shifting its skin pigmentation to recreate any pattern consciously, not just one that it's in front of. It often disguises itself as a bloody, defiled corpse with streaks of red and tan and lies in wait for a passerby to see them. When the victim gets close enough, the entity will grab the sides of their head, holding it in place and lock eyes with them. It will then completely distort their senses so severely that it leaves them unable to process any sensory information from the world without descending into complete insanity. Siren Head. Bullhorn Slenderman. Speaker Face. A monstrosity known by many names. Siren Head is a tall skeletal humanoid creature with a long pole and multiple sirens in place of a head and neck. No shit. These sirens have a set of gums and teeth on the inside of them. Its skin is tightly wrapped around its bones like a kid in a trash bag with a vacuum. Siren Head has dry, papery skin like the leaf of a backwoods. Speaking of, am I the only one that thinks that loose shredded tobacco looks like a bunch of collected pubic hairs? Just me? Okay. It's thought that like a stick bug, the Siren Head has evolved to look exactly like telephone wire poles in order to blend into the environment. Siren Heads are apex predators in both forests and any environment with plentiful human human infrastructure, consuming every creature they come across, like that fisherman guy that catches random ocean fish and then eats them raw to test if they're poisonous, even if they've already been established as poisonous. That's real, and it's called this. You're welcome. There's this myth going around that Siren Head doesn't eat. It's actually that he doesn't need to eat. He eats humans and animals just because he's a sick f*** and thinks it's pretty funny. Siren Head has no eyes, and while some claim that he can still see, like the common bat or Stevie Wonder, this creature moves and locates prey using echolocation, sending out indetectable pulses of sound constantly and receiving accurate feedback as to where your dumbass is hiding. The two sirens on its head will often speak in unison and throw out seemingly random words and numbers in a static-filled, echoey electronic hum. This creature is also capable of replicating any noise that it hears, including human speech, animal calls, and of course, sirens, digital, and other mechanical noises.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass fjord.
Siren Head seems to be more intelligent than your average human. You gotta be smart to get a human out of their house if you look like the result of someone tripping balls on mushrooms on Halloween night and seeing an especially creepy telephone pole. The noises that he uses to lure victims will change from person to person. Similar to a skinwalker, Siren Head often uses the voices or screams for help of a loved one or any other voice that it thinks could manipulate a victim into leaving safety. It will also specialize the noises by stalking a victim for a series of weeks to understand its behavior. Many paranormal researchers theorize that the Siren Head belongs to a larger collection of similar humanoid creatures. There have been documentations of lamppost heads, telephone pole heads, and 5G cell station heads, just to name a few. That's right, that crazy swamp lady that burnt down the 5G tower was actually defending you from Siren Heads, and you all just went and put her in jail. Now look at all the places that he has to hide. Siren Head's rise to fame mirrors another internet horror celebrity, Slenderman. Often being called the new Slenderman, this has made the actual Slenderman quite bitter. He was already behaving erratically, as he had slid into alcoholism as so many former child stars do. In a blind drunken rage, Slenderman attempted to run down Siren Head in his car, which was documented by a bunch of 10-year-olds writing Slenderman vs. Siren Head fanfics.
Open the door or I'm gonna throw rocks through your windows, you dumb whore.
Hey Satana, add polycephalic human skeletons to my shopping list.
I've added polycephalic human skeleton to your shopping list.
See, I told you, a real Megahorn. But what does it mean?
It means you're too high and need to go to bed. Or give me some of whatever it is.
Megahorn, the destroyer of the Siren Heads. A nickname he insists that he did not give to himself. As the name implies, Megahorn is the primary and only predator of the Siren Head species. It is not only the consumer of Siren Heads, but in fact related to them as well. Ew. The Megahorn evolved from a lineage of Siren Head that consumed larger fauna than humans, such as cows or other cattle. And we're also not opposed to cannibalism. Over time, this sect of Siren Heads diversified enough that they were considered a separate species from the original. Larger, hungrier, and more aggressive, they began to stop consuming their own in favor of hunting their smaller, weaker cousins. They took a new form as their physiology changed with evolution. The Megahorn has a massive singular horn in the dead center of its head. It has a body similar to that of a typical Siren Head, but instead of the iconic shriveled horror physique, it has a flap-like beer gut used to store the consumed bodies of its former ancestors. It also has an additional pair of arms to help it both walk and accost its prey. This, along with its stubby torso, gives the Megahorn an arachnid-like appearance. Some of you may be confused about the nature of Siren Heads and Megahorns, but allow me to dispel any misinformation spread by the Siren Head news networks. Siren Heads are actually an evolutionary tree of life, not one sole immortal supernatural entity. In fact, there are many different species of Siren Head. There are lamppost heads, traffic light heads, even vibrator heads, which, for some inexplicable reason, are the most popular variety. They populate the entire planet, as humans do, but in significantly fewer numbers. They are a cognitohazardous species, meaning that the trademark sirens and signals that the Siren Heads broadcast can manipulate the cognition and overall psyche of humans that hear it. While it is quite scary of a concept, some humans can become immune to cognitohazards through controlled exposure. Like that guy who tried to vaccinate himself against snake bites using snake venom, and then survived, I'm pretty sure. I don't know, I didn't finish the YouTube video. Like all species, they are limited by their food source, which for Siren Heads is you, and for Megahorns is Siren Heads. and you. Hence why the Megahorn is encountered in far fewer numbers than the Siren Head. While some state that the act of a Siren Head consuming another Siren Head causes the Megahorn mutation to occur like some Skinwalker shit, this isn't actually the case. The Megahorn is simply a much rarer creature that's encountered less often. They just look like Siren Heads because they evolved from them. And humans love to make shit up. But don't take that away from them. They have such fun lying to each other. For example, some religious organizations said that the Megahorn is a god protecting them from Siren Head. The reality is, the Megahorn couldn't give less of a shit about him. He's just hungry. He'll eat him as a snack if he doesn't have to get up from the couch to reach them. Such idiots running up to worship Megahorns and getting gulped have been documented by many horrified bystanders, and one furiously masturbating vorophile. The impact of the Megahorn's existence primarily means that there are fewer Siren Heads, which is a net positive for humanity. Because of this, the Foundation has ranked them low priority. Although, this guy is definitely not friendly to humans. The Megahorn's range of its siren is vast compared to that of a Siren Head, and the power of its blasts outweigh its shrimpy little cousin too. It can pop a human head like a testicle that's been shot by a BB gun. This powerful sound is actually meant for disabling other Siren Heads, but because the power needed for that is immense, it causes extreme damage to both property and anything living. Unlike the Siren Head, Megahorn has no biological limit in its growth, meaning that like some reptiles like alligators, snapping turtles, and Komodo dragons, they can get as big as their food abundance allows. No, I meant it as a good thing. Like, people think you're buff and stuff. No one is calling you fat! Bridgeworms are mysterious ambush predators located across the majority of the North American continent. These worms are often discovered by unlucky urban explorers that stick their nose inside the wrong place at the wrong time, like that one incident with the butthole. These creatures have a long worm-like body covered in a layer of sickly-looking gray skin with a waxy shine to it. They have two large arms protruding from each side, which they use for dragging themselves along using walls of tunnels like a lubed-up man crawling quickly across a slip-and-slide. They also use these arms to secure prey and bring it inside their face holes for consumption. The bridgeworm usually resides in bridges, tunnels, sewers, subways, abandoned buildings, and rarely in natural caves. Like you and I, this creature very much enjoys slippery holes. This creature preys upon the majority of large North American fauna, but has a tendency to reside in man-made areas and target humans. It's theorized that this predator not only targets humans, but has evolved over millions of years to favor humans as prey. It's thought that this creature needs the large mass of gray matter that is most present in human brains. Evidence for this evolutionary relationship can be seen in its false face adaptation. Kinda like dealing with someone on the street handing out their quote-unquote free mixtape, or a girl who's only on Tinder to promote her OnlyFans. You shouldn't be fooled by this false face. Its gray skin opens up just under the chin of the creature, creating a retractable flap. This flap has a fake, vaguely humanoid face on it. When ambushing its prey, it retracts this flap to reveal its true face, which is a blood-red skeletal face eerily similar in bone structure to a human skull. While it was theorized that this was designed to fool humans as a manipulation of their hard-coded facial recognition patterns in their brains, this theory falls apart when you realize that most humans are smart enough to know it's not a person if it's a giant worm with an uncanny valley face. Keyword: most. Instead, I theorize that it is not designed to trick humans, but instead to pique their curiosity, taking advantage of the human's natural proclivity to seek knowledge even if it puts them in danger. What's that saying? Curiosity killed the cat, and also that transient, that taxi driver, that paranormal investigator. As they age, their faces get more and more human-like, and some of them attach themselves inside of their habitat like some sort of horrible roadway snail. Another adaptation that suggests the bridgeworm specializes in human hunting is that it oozes a thick slime. This not only lubricates its body to slide through tunnels, but it also serves to make the road incredibly slippery, causing many more accidents. Numerous corporations have captured and farmed these worms to milk them of their lubricant and sell them as intercourse aids worldwide. When the slime freezes in the winter, this accident rate skyrockets. After causing a car crash, this creature will rip the doors from the vehicle and pull the prey out of the car and devour it like my rabbi did with my foreskin after I was circumcised. The largest recorded bridgeworm on record was over 1,500 feet, and was the culprit responsible for some of the numerous New York railway transit disappearance from 1994 to 1998. Bridgeworms usually keep to isolated areas to avoid detection by human masses. Nothing on your planet is more dangerous than a big big group of humans under groupthink. Although, when food is scarce, the worms will sometimes relocate in search of more, sometimes across vast distances. There have been a few rare instances of bridge worms entering cities and large towns. For example, the most infamous incident in 1998 in which a bridge worm followed the train tracks from rural New York directly into Grand Central, consuming railway workers, drunken humans, and homeless street performers in the subway, only to be cut in half by an express train from Connecticut before it could reach the high population transit center. I actually witnessed this, but in the moment, after the night I had, I wasn't sure if I actually saw a train cut a giant worm with human arms in half, or I was just a bit too gone and needed some sleep. What is strange is that there are no evolutionary trees which the bridge worm would fit into, as it has no known species relatives. How the bridge worm came into existence is a complete mystery. Some say it's related to snakes or worms, some say it was created in a laboratory, some, as humans always do, say it's got something to do with the occult or the paranormal. Examining its genetic lineage is like going on TikTok. Rarely have I opened TikTok and I was like, yeah, that was a valuable use of my time. Most of the time I just open it to post and spend like 15 minutes and I'm staring at memes and thirst traps and I'm like, shit, I've been tricked. What the hell am I talking about again? I would advise against searching for the bridge worm due to the fact that you're their primary source of food, that millions of years of evolution have bred them to be the perfect ambush predator for you, idiot. I decided to message my associate and take this investigation into my own hands. The following is the message log leading up to the expedition. Yo, where's the abandoned house? In the woods. I need some footage. We need to find the bridge worm, motherfucker. This guy. Where? Oh, you're asking me? I'm down to do that tonight. Blair Witch Project. Yeah, I'm asking you, lol. We need to find the bridge worms.
Redacted.
If we believe hard enough and get high enough, it will be real. Hey man, you don't gotta tell me twice. Lift today? I'm glad you understand the importance of this matter. Also down. Lift today, dinner, vodka, wander into the woods. An anomalous apex predator has recently been reported stalking remote towns in southern Africa. A stark bone-white faceplate, jagged razor-edged teeth, a virus-shaped body with 4 legs, the front ending in finger-like extensions and the back ending in cloven hooves. In the center of the torso, an open gash containing a writhing pile of human heads. A cacophony of pained, desperate moans escape the pulsing maw.
He told me the end of the life was Cletus. And I believed him.
This creature was first documented by preternatural investigator Leovincible, who instead of submitting it to the Foundation for approval, decided to submit it to Twitter for likes without a single shit given for what the Foundation labels due process. What can I say? He's built different. He didn't really give it a name, so I will be dubbing this beastie the Cacophony. The first thing about this creature that instantly grabs the eye is the collection of heads inside of its split chest cavity. These heads inside are not its own. This predator targets humans and steals heads from its victims, inserting them into the center of its chest cavity. It integrates these heads into its own neurology, keeping them alive and preserving the consciousness inside the brain, trapping the human with barely enough processing power in their brain to know their own suffering. This allows it to access the head's memories, and it can even use it as a meaty biological processor. The more heads the Cacophony has, the more cunning it becomes, using more and more advanced hunting techniques, and even constructing complex tools like traps to catch its victims. Keep in mind, if it has like 4 McDonald's employees, it still might function on a capacity lower than if it has 2 CEOs, and nowhere near as skilled as if it had 1 YouTuber. The classic Cacophony quality-quantity quandary. The Cacophony's top head often screams a range of vocalizations at the victim it's attempting to decapitate. While it's fully capable of communicating with humans, it most often doesn't even bother to. The vocalizations include voices and sayings from former victims in their lives. These will often come off as nonsensical shrieks, as the things the creature is saying don't really make sense to say when attacking someone.
My self-esteem's so low, I don't know how to process it. She never loved me. Because my mother, she loved my brother Tommy. She didn't even say, you're my little schmeckle. I know I'm a schmeckle.
Another notable feature of this entity is its white mask. No one knows what its face looks like beyond the mask. Some say it has low self-esteem and doesn't like its face. Some people say it just thinks the mask looks cool. I say, if you're wondering about a mask as this thing approaches you to rip off your head and put it in titty purgatory, you have dumb priorities. You deserve to die, idiot.
I think it's you.
I think you're the problem.
Just beneath the mask lies an agape mouth with a set of razor-sharp teeth. This jaw is used to hold the victim in place while removing the head with its 2 front limbs, and then it takes bites out of the resulting corpse for sustenance. The creature's back 2 legs are hooves, and the front 2 are a cross between human hands and gorilla feet. Unlike traditional quadruped movement, this creature has a bodily structure that has a center of gravity in the direct center of all 4 of its legs, like a tripod, but with 4 legs. So, like a quad pod, it can make incredibly quick turns and dexterous maneuvers. Side note, I've been saying quadruped a lot, and it reminded me of the time I had to message a biology professor about gorillas, and I made a misspelling. Instead of saying, when the gorilla knuckle walks, it's a quadruped, I messaged that it was quadruped. Because quadruped is 1 letter off from quadruped. Dumbest disciplinary hearing ever. What the hell am I talking about again? The combination of hoofed legs and the quad pod structure makes it so that in close quarters, the cacophony is deadly.
At the end of the day, if you're happy and you love yourself, do good. Do good, children.
Hey dude, I'm kind of like doing something right now. The cacophony's flap can open and close. The primary function of this is thought to be ambush predation. It disguises itself as a smelly pile of dead animals by laying flat on its side with its flap closed. After something approaches it, it will proceed to kill and eat the animal. It hunts anything that moves, but only gathers the heads of humans. All this means that it's too dangerous to be in the environment, which is why I sent it to be safe and happy and frolic at a farm upstate.
Hello? Hello? It's dark in here.
Guys, everybody, AzFk, he locks me in the locker, he locks me in there, and he makes me do drugs.
You just like fucked that man's whole world up, bro. Like he thought the darkness was forever, and then you gave him light again and put it right back in.
Wait, who's in the cage? The faint sound of a powerful heartbeat coming from above. You tilt your head towards the source of the pulsation and see a swollen mass of what looks like hamburger meat dripping an unknown viscous black fluid. It fixates its empty eye sockets on you and makes a garbled, pained screech before releasing its grasp and plummeting towards you. Paranormal investigator Trevor Henderson has yet again uploaded anomalous evidence to Twitter despite all Foundation protests. A swift kick to the balls to their supernatural level of bureaucracy is always welcome in my opinion. This evidence takes the form of 2 images of seemingly related entities, and the caption, Meaty. It's very likely that these are just 2 entities that Trevor encountered and wanted to document, and without much field observations about them otherwise, just said Meaty is a fun little wink to the audience. Which is pretty ableist because some people can't wink. These creatures have faces resembling human skulls, seemingly made out of a combination of bone, teeth, and skinless, red flesh tendrils. The second documented creature also displays an open ribcage, which means that there's likely more complex structures in both of them that aren't just earthworm-looking hamburger meat. Their shape, while amorphous, is consistent in a few key aspects. They seem to be suspended in the air by a variable amount of slender limbs, and unless those entities are stationary, it could be surmised that they would move via suspensory movement, similar to species of non-anomalous primates, tracking prey from power lines, trees, rooftops, 5G towers, parking lights, that bridge that I took a dump under before taking the perfect opportunity to strike. It could also, as previously mentioned, be a stationary ambush predator. This would mean that it would wait above human settlements, suspended along their own structures for an unsuspecting individual to cross under them. At that moment, they would let go and drop onto the victim, subsequently latching on and rappelling back up to safety, ensnaring the prey in a web of flesh, consuming them slowly from the comfort of their meaty spider web. The creature from the first image looks to be swollen, which could suggest that it is in the midst of actively digesting a prey item. I wouldn't want to be under that thing when it takes a supernatural human-sized shit all over the sidewalk. I assume these things are dangerous just based on how creepy they look, but I have no concrete evidence. He could just eat plants or like fucking gravel too, I guess. Hell, he could be a used car salesman for all I know. I have 2 fucking pictures. The first one kind of reminds me of a living cut-off bull testicle. You guys ever have Rocky Mountain oysters? I haven't, but they're on the list. Also, some may note that the pictures look as though they fit together. And while I'm not ruling that possibility out, some key factors lead me to believe otherwise. First off, they have different tones in their flesh, and key differing factors in their morphology suggesting that they are unique individuals. Also, I put one on top of the other and it didn't fit, so I don't know, man. You try it. If any researcher watching has any ideas about how these creatures are related more than just being the same species, leave your findings below. One may also question the text that looks as if it reads A1 behind the second creature, and how the background of these images look as though they could be in some sort of metal room. While I initially thought it was just a cloudy backdrop, this could suggest something else. This may lead some to believe that it's being contained at a facility, seeing as how they usually label and categorize their anomalies. And that may be correct. Some may think it's the SCP Foundation, some may think it's some other shadow government. Everyone's got one nowadays. I don't think so, though. We've uncovered something much more devious. I believe that we now know an integral piece in the mystery of how they make A1 steak sauce. It consumes all. Those who seek it leave with nothing. It is desire. It is greed. The manifestation of a constant need to consume in physical form. This was the last recorded communication from a man who made a deal with an entity named the Black Crown. His corpse was found barricaded inside of his home, all of his valuables missing. He had taken the coward's way out. The Black Crown was first documented by Leovincible, and then subsequently documented by Clark Tidor, two paranormal investigators who decided the best way to respond to the Foundation's sanctions on anomalous evidence was a nice hard flick direct to the center of the scrotum. Classic. This entity not only embodies greed, it's the actual concept of greed. The creature has an obsidian-toned skeletal form and stands slightly above 7 feet in height. Its emaciated stature signifies an unending hunger. The entity's skull ends in 3 points that resemble a crown. Under this is an unmoving, unnerving grin that would go from ear to ear if he had ears. It has no visible sense organs save for a jaw full of perfectly white, manicured teeth. While it can still seemingly sense the world unhindered by this, he did say that he felt left out when all his old Wall Street buddies started snorting coke. The Black Crown reportedly speaks every human language at once, and whoever encountered it reports that they heard it speaking the language they were most familiar with, but with a touch of an unplaceable accent. The creature has an insatiable appetite for things deemed valuable. Gemstones, gold, priceless artwork, exotic cars, champagne, expensive escorts, you know, the high life. It'll do anything in its power to obtain something it desires, anything short of giving something up. This often spells the death of the original owner of the item in question. He will ask once politely, and if the person refuses, he'll take it anyway. If the person tries to stop him, he will proceed to beat them the fuck to death. From his interview with Clark Tidor, he wrote, "It's that person's fault for not complying with a reasonable request." Well, when he explains it like that, I kinda get it. Yo, free my boy, he didn't do nothing. In the past, he wore gold to shine above the rest, but he has updated his fashion with the times for the thousands of years that he's been alive. During the Renaissance, he wore the most expensive garments dyed with the rarest pigments. For most of the 20th century, he wore only the finest of suits and jewelry. Since his idea of what is good is based so much on greed and value, his brain recently kinda got tricked by the Supreme types, and he now has since switched to a more neurodivergent 12-year-old hypebeast aesthetic. His greed is not restricted to material things. On some occasions, the Black Crown will recognize something special in an individual with greed in their heart, something money cannot buy. Unique skills, emotions, memories, experiences, anything that he deems valuable. Thank God I don't have any of those things. He will offer the individual a deal, and offer more in response to them refusing, until they basically can't, granting them the life they want, luxuries, powers, health for the rest of their natural life, in exchange for what he wants. Sometimes this ends in ironic circumstances. For example, the Black Crown granted an artist the professional life and respect that he wanted. However, what the Black Crown wanted was his artistic ability. And as the artist slowly began to lose that, he lost his career as well. Way to read the fine print, dumbass. While the Black Crown is preternaturally physically capable, he is not immortal. Enough firepower will turn the fucker to dust. Literally, when he sustains enough damage, he dissolves into dust like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I don't want to die, Mr. Stark. Thing is, you can't really kill the concept of greed. The dust is swept away by the wind, but the spirit still lingers, and it immediately begins its search for a human with a heart completely corrupted by greed. Whether it's a narcissistic influencer or that guy from BP who busted all over the ocean or some shit, eventually a perfect target is found. The spirit latches onto the individual and influences it to lean full tilt into its greed. Over time, the greed completely overtakes every aspect of their personality. Eventually, the bones in the individual's head and body elongate and change. Their skin hardens into a dark exoskeleton, and they lose all sensory organs, except that with which they can consume. Or something goofy like that. Not only does the Black Crown have a significant stake in every world economy, he also sells courses that falsely claim he can get you to his economic status.
Get rich immediately. No effort or action required. For 9 easy payments of $29.95, I'll send you 14 unlisted YouTube videos with the concept of visualization.
Results not guaranteed nor likely. Entering your credit card may cause all of your money to be wired directly to a shell corporation in Mumbai.
Some of those traits might sound similar to another entity that's commonly discussed on the internet. That's because I based that part off Andrew Tate. But don't worry, the Black Crown is not a sex trafficker. Sometimes people will edit wiki pages with shit that I make up, and I really hope this is gonna be one of those times. By the way, none of this is canon, I made it all up. The God of Chickens. The God of Chickens is a tall, skinny, white humanoid chicken. Similar to chickens, instead of having both a front hole and a back hole, it has only one hole. Its face sports a pair of giant red eyes with minuscule black dots for pupils. You're probably wondering why the hell this weird thing exists, and it's to punish those who eat poultry or abuse chickens. Fun fact, did you know that chickens recognize up to 100 faces, feel emotions, dream when they sleep at night, and can also be fried with up to 11 different herbs and spices? Well, the God of Chicken knows, and now he also knows that you know. The God of Chickens is seemingly intelligent, as it likes to psychologically torture its victims before going in for the final kill. Any eggs the victim has in their house will begin to rot and crack, making the room smell like a North American neckbeard nest. Any unrotten eggs that the target attempts to crack open will have an unborn chicken fetus inside. Consuming this stillborn chicken fetus leads to infertility, if you were thinking about doing that for some f***ed up reason. If the household has any poultry animals, these will all become incredibly violent, seemingly working as a team to attack any humans or other domestic animals in the vicinity. The God of Chicken also seems to have a strange venom of sorts. After a target is pecked, they begin to feel sick, sluggish, nauseous, and they gain an excess of weight. When examined at the doctors, the physician expressed that it's almost as if the victim had been pumped full of steroids and antibiotics, just like a chicken on the factory line. The God of Chickens will eventually appear after enough Chick-fil-A themed torture, murdering the victim with a well-placed and incredibly deep peck to the center of the heart. The body is usually found later being fed upon by chickens. You can tell if the God of Chickens is nearby because all chickens in the area will go completely silent before going batshit insane and clucking repeatedly as loud as they can. It can command all poultry in the area, often spurring them to violence. It can be hard to tell if the God of Chickens is nearby because lots of chickens are just naturally loud dickheads. In some egg farms with cruel practices, there have been mysterious cases of all of the chickens in the farm somehow getting outside of the property and wandering together in large groups away from the facility. Upon inspection of the building, it was found that the workers of the factory were crammed into the cages that are considered much too small for even a chicken. Their bones and joints distended and cracked to fit them into these boxes like a jigsaw puzzle. Despite these injuries, every worker was somehow alive and responsive upon discovery. One worker was quoted as saying, "Oh God, why?" In other reports of factories where the chickens have escaped in a similar manner, investigators found the human workers clogging the grinder they used to kill the baby male chickens to turn them into dog food. Fortunately, this did not interrupt the supply chain, and even more dog food was shipped out on time the next day. Unconfirmed accounts of the God of Chicken shoving eggs up into people's asses has also been reported. To keep our resident human safe, we've begun feeding him a diet of raw red meat and microplastics only. Side note, this one time I was in a Whole Foods, and I remember the line was taking an incredibly long time. This kind of annoyed me, so I peeked my head out to the front to see what the issue was, and there was this woman just screaming at the poor dude behind the registers because the Whole Foods was apparently out of grass-fed chicken. I don't think I've ever seen anything funnier than the expression of the checkout man on the brink of tears trying to explain to this Karen that chickens don't eat grass. This chicken monster also carries a special chicken egg, which is often seen levitating between both of its strange chicken feet hands. It lays this egg to gain control over poultry, manipulate other eggs in the area, or cause any dead poultry products to move as if they were still live muscle. It often unlays this egg back up into its weird one waist/egg hole to protect it, but you can easily just stomp really hard on its stomach to get it to shit it out so you can crush it. I have not had a single lucid thought in the past 2.5 years. If you can smash this egg, the God of Chickens will lose its higher cognition and the rest of its abilities, becoming a regular human-shaped bipedal chicken, also known as delicious. I know what some of you are going to say, isn't that the same image you used for your basis of the stalker in the back rooms? The answer is yes. There could be a simple explanation of me not knowing the God of Chicken's existence at the time of making that video, but since I definitely know all and would never make a mistake, I now suspect that they are the same person. Think about it. Have you ever seen the god of chickens and the backroom stalker in the same room at the same time? Coincidence? I think not. If you like this video and want to see me make more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with all notifications enabled, or I will shove eggs in your butt and throw you to the chickens. Shout out to the members of the inner circle. Love y'all.
Okay, bye.